Oh, no, that did not work. Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. Okay, I think that's working. Hopefully, somebody will tell me if it's not working. Hello, y'all. As people come in, I'm going to do some housekeeping, but welcome to the first ever Office Hours with Dr. Lacy, the live experience. I want to say, like, I've been wanting to do this for such a long time, but between lifing, having the necessary resources, and to be all the way real and honest, from being scared. I am scared. If you ever had a feeling before you did a thing that you know is going to be big, it's going to be have a huge impact. That's what I feel with this, and that's why I feel so scared because I'm like, oh, this is the beginning of something amazing. But I have an amazing guest who is going to help me, who's helping me with my nerves. But before we get there, I want to do some quick housekeeping things as folks join us. Make sure I know how to work my system here. Okay, we are hosting a 90-day proposal challenge. So starting this Sunday for May, June, and July, as a group inside of the Institute, we are going to be working through each step of the proposal. So if you are starting your proposal somewhere lost in the middle of it, or you just want a refresher because you're preparing for your final defense, then I say you need to be inside the Institute. The Institute is a membership that gives you the structure you need, the support you need, and accountability you need to write your dissertation in 12 months or less. And we begin with a proposal. You can go to this website and join us, qualscholars.com/proposal, and we will see you inside of there. Also, on Wednesdays, we co-write together because especially around this time of year when you want to be outside, you want to be with your friends, it's going to be hard for you to get work done. So you should definitely join us on Wednesdays. It's noon to 2 Eastern. It's free. You can tell your friends to pull up. You can pull up, but it's just something I offer to help people get things done in the middle of the week. And then one of the final things I want to bring your attention to is you should come and hang out with us. If you like what you hear today, if you want to learn more, come to the Fall Scholars community. It is fall-scholars.circle.so. It is also free to join, and we have amazing conversations there. This is something we do to open up every call inside of Fall Scholars. So we ask ourselves, how are we doing? How are you doing in this moment on this Monday afternoon? I guess not the afternoon, it's evening, right? How are you doing on your focus, openness, and peace? However you define those words. Okay, I think about focus. Can I like concentrate on one thing at a time? When I think about openness, it's like if people present something that initially I may not think I agree with, or I'm like, that's a little bit off, am I open to receiving or to being curious about anything that might be presented to me? And then peace, the way I personally define it is, do I have acceptance that no matter what happens, I accept that it's meant to be and I trust my ability to figure it out. So that's how I define those words. You may define them differently, but based on that definition, what is your current level of focus, openness, and peace on a scale of 1 to 5? 1 being I don't have it, I don't got none of it, or 5 being I got all of it, I'm good, let's go. And then scholar basics are 5 things that we strive to do in an effort to take care of ourselves so that we have energy, we have the capacity to do the things that we want to do throughout our day. So drinking 64 ounces of water. I got my water. My guest has their water. Are you sleeping 7 hours? At least laying down somewhere for 7 hours a day. Journaling for 10 minutes. I know some of y'all don't like it, but you need to journal. It will help you in your writing. And moving your body for 10 minutes. How are you doing on moving your body? And our last scholar basics is a shitty paragraph. Shitty paragraph is just a collection of 4 sentences that you put together and you call the paragraph. And together, these things make up the scholar basics. It's not about being perfect. It is about what's the effort looking like. So I would say my numbers today, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm like a 3.5. Maybe I'm like a 3.75. Listen, I'm trying to give myself every little ounce that I can give, but y'all, the struggle bus today. Okay, I am. I'm on the struggle bus, but it's gonna be all good. By the end of this week, I'm gonna be back on it. But tomorrow is a full moon, a Scorpio, and I am feeling it. Okay, I'm feeling this full moon fully. Chris, are you feeling the full moon? Because it's a thing, y'all. Okay, if you hear Chris, it's because yes, that's the guest. So let me know your numbers, even if you're on Instagram. I don't know if I can see your comments on Instagram. Oh, y'all deep over here on the Instagram. Hey, y'all. What you call it over as a seed. So let me know your numbers, and I'm gonna somebody need to help me figure out how to get 2 monitors so I can see everybody's comments because right now we're a little bit lonely over here on the YouTubes. Okay, you can come on YouTube and join us. Okay. Before I'm gonna introduce this guest, and then I'm gonna go on a rant, and then I'm gonna come back to this guest. Okay. Today's guest is Chris, and I just wanted to talk about the favorite thing because I'm trying to get better, like boost the group, tell the people. My favorite thing about Qual Scholar community is that I don't feel isolated in this journey. As somebody who had to, like, I felt a lot of isolation in my journey, which is why I'm like, community is so important. Y'all, community to me is the only thing that matters. If I had to narrow it down, I'd be like, community is the only thing. Dr. Lacy sees each of us, meets us where we are, and provides support, insight, and encouragement. Qual Scholars represents the cheerleaders and best friends everyone needs in their life. That's so sweet. That's so sweet. Qual Scholars is the epitome of a space where Black doctoral students are encouraged, seen, cared for, given the tools to complete the program and navigate life. I tell everyone about the community and I share the videos with Black doctoral students. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Happy to help.
Yes. Listen, I tell people I created what I needed, what I desperately needed. I'm gonna do an episode dedicated to my story, but I'm sure y'all know the story of just trying to make it through somebody's program and and being intact, and really the loneliness almost took me out. Which is hard because a lot of people know my program to be like, well, you had a lot of Black people there. And just because there's a lot of Black people in one place doesn't mean everybody feels a part of the community. All right, but that's for an episode at a different time. But it does bring me to something. So I was having a conversation with Mimi earlier. Or just for the past few weeks, we've been talking about designing her study. And it made me think about something. It made me think about the state of education. And this episode today is titled, which I don't think I even showed y'all my slide, huh? This episode today is that America has a problem. And you know my love of Beyonce. If you know that's a Beyonce song, then you know America does have a problem, though. America has a problem because the way I like to say it is that the babies can't read, y'all. And so I'm going to start off with a quote that we have all heard probably a million times, but I don't know if you've had an opportunity to really sit down and think about what this quote means. So I'm going to read it. Audre Lorde, for the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us temporarily to beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change. And this fact is only threatening to those women who still define the master's house as their only source of support. I want us to pay attention to that last line. So let me say it again. In this fact is only threatening to those women who still define the master's house as their only source of support. We have work to do, y'all, because this education system is broken. It's been broken. It was never designed for people like us. If you are watching this, if you're in my world, 9.9 times out of 10, the education system was not designed for you. It was originally designed for wealthy white men. If you don't fit that, it wasn't designed for you. Later on, right, people did a little bit of razzle dazzle and they let other people in, but it originally was not designed for us. It went from being for wealthy white men to industries coming and being like, so we have these factories, right? And we need people to work in these factories, but they don't know how to work in a 8 to 10 hour window and produce in that window. So how do we get them prepared to do that? Oh, we're going to create this thing called higher education and we're going to train them. And so here we are, fast forward, 50, 60, 70, 80 years, where are you counting from? And we think that the education system has radically changed. But for all of that, the babies can't read is what my brain keeps coming back to.
Mhm.
And what I want you to ask yourself as wherever you are, if you're a doc student, if you work within higher ed in whatever capacity, but most of y'all are doc students. Why are you doing this? Why are you wanting to get a degree? Like, why do you want to be within the ivory tower? To what end are you doing this for? Why? And how I like to put it is, why do you continue being in an abusive relationship with the current education system? What is it that you're telling yourself that you're getting from this? Now, I want to be clear. I am not, because I'm not shitting on you getting the degree. I'm not saying that you need to quit. What I'm asking is if we, because a lot of y'all, let me, I'm included, we do research about talking about systemic oppression without ever really examining how we are complicit in the same systems that we are resisting and that we are working towards dismantling. Why do you keep depending on this particular oppressive system to be your only source of support? My aim with this show is to provide a wake up call of sorts to educators. However, you define that in a very broad sense of that word, I want to wake up educators across the globe because babies can't read. And when I say babies, that's my cultural way of saying the kids can't read. Okay, kids are going to school for hours every day for years and they still can't read. And we can say, oh, it's because of the pandemic. No, they couldn't read before the pandemic. And that's a problem. We can't keep putting the responsibility on them. At some point, we have to look at the system. Why are you working so hard to be a doctor? Why did you choose a nice field like education? Why do you have this 3 year, 5 year, 7 year plan to graduate, to get a position at an R1 institution, to get tenured? What is your goal? You might be saying, oh, because I want to focus on people who are not centered in research, but why? Why does it matter that you focus on certain groups of people or issues or topics within research? Again, don't get caught up in why I'm asking you, because I'm asking you just to process it. I want you to stop and think about why are you doing what you're doing? Because here's the thing, y'all. We are trained to do research in these very Western whitewashed ways. We are trained to go into communities and spaces to extract from those spaces and then to put it into a document and the way they tell you to put it into a document. And then you go publish said document or documents, but only other academics are reading these documents. If you are truly doing research for the people you claim to do the research for, how are you presenting what you're finding in a way that is accessible to them? Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying people can't understand academic jargon. I'm asking why do they have to, in order to engage with your work, why do I have to go through the academic jargon? Why do I have to go through the academic gatekeepers if you claim to be centering the people in your work? And the you is who, like I'm talking to you, is why I'm looking in the camera. Right? You were told that education was this good altruistic thing that you could do. Right? You think like I'm an educator, I teach the babies. But what are you teaching them and why are you teaching it to them in that way? Why are you fighting with people who don't know where you come from or who don't really, they only claim to care about the babies in name, but they don't really want to do the work? Because that's why you have to work so hard to get your initiatives passed, like culturally responsive teaching. Why do you keep working overtime to prove yourself to people who, at the end of the day, they're not going to care? I would much rather I argue that I would much rather use that energy to go directly to the people who you want to help the most. This is not 50, 60 years ago. We have so many resources where we can speak directly to the people, that you can speak directly to folks who look like you, who come from where you come from, who remind you of the scars that you worked so hard to forget in order to be in this education system. For all of our critical race theories, our DEI strategies, our culturally relevant whatever, the baby still can't read. And I argue is that we were fighting so hard to get the abuser, the oppressors to see us, to validate us, that we lost the plot somewhere. that we forgot to actually go back and be like, hey, let me help you. I learned these new things in this school. Let me teach it to you. I am simply the too long don't read of this siren is I just want education for people. I deeply want everyone who's watching this, who will watch this, who comes across any of my content. I've always just wanted people to know that you are enough, that you know enough, that you have enough right now to do exactly what you want to do. Because most of you who I talk to, you want to help people. You want to educate other people, but you think the only way to do it is to be a tenure track faculty somewhere, is to be published in top tier journals, is to receive grants and acknowledgments from academics. But you claim you want to be an educator of the people. Why don't you just go directly to the people? Why do you keep trying to use the master's tools of this is how you do research and this is how you get published? Why do you keep using those tools and those metrics to deem yourself worthy enough to going to the people and educating them? Why don't you just take exactly what you learned and go back to your home and educate the people? You don't even have to go back home. We got this thing called the internet. So here are the three things. Number one, you matter, your experience matters. I need to name that because some of you are questioning if your research is legitimate, if what you know to be true is legitimate, because people keep questioning your real experience. That's on them, that's not on you. Your experience matters, it's real, it's a real thing. Number two, the way that we come to understand what our experience means to us and what it might mean to others is to be in community. Community is our saving grace. Community is how we're going to help people learn and educate in a way that is most safe safest to them. I'm gonna put it that way because the education system is not safe for everyone. And number three, I believe it is our duty to share what we have learned with others and invite them to share with us because we don't know everything. How you could do this? Pick a medium. What I tell students is pick a thing. Do you like writing? Do you like speaking? Or do you like video like this? Pick one. There are so many free tools on this internet. Every week, show up and teach someone something. Teach a lesson. Try to make it around 10 minutes that it'll take them 10 minutes to consume. And then invite other people to engage with that. So I'll be talking more about that as we go along. But the too long don't read of this. Stop trying to use the master's tools to validate you and to dismantle the master's house. Take action. Focus on the people that you care most about and go educate them. All right. Now that's a way to get into today's episode. I would love to know y'all comments. On my Insta, it paused. Listen, Instagram just ain't gonna let us be great, y'all. So we're just gonna keep it going. I'm glad y'all are here. Tell your friends to pull up to YouTube. So yes. Oh, you just offended. Congratulations. All right. So let me bring up Chris. Hi, Chris. Oh, I should unmute you. Okay.
Hey, good evening. Good evening.
So I sent out invitation
Mm-hmm.
people asking if they would want to be featured on the show. And you were the first one to respond. And I was really pleasantly surprised that you were like, I would go first on the very first episode. So shout out to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um,
It was an
please
honor to be here.
introduce yourself and how I don't think I remember when you first started the Institute.
Yeah.
So I just feel like you've been hanging around and I
Yeah, I've been hanging around. I'm Chris. I'm a fourth year information science doctoral student, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. My field is race, digital studies, and intersectionality. I'm also a tenured librarian and do engineering, physical sciences, research data services librarian. All that means is I work to help graduate students, undergraduates, faculty document, store, backup, uh, organize their research data. And I think it's important for not just for your research project, but thinking about your photos in your phone, or if you're in a situation where you're uh, um, handling care for a loved one and you have to handle their affairs or help them handle their affairs, that's when organization really becomes important, because life be life. So
Life be lifing. So what is that? I mean, this is not on the list of questions, but like, what does that look like in a typical day? Like, what are people coming in, and what would they, I guess, usually ask you about?
Usually they have a project coming up and they're trying to figure out how they can organize their files, or what would be a way to make that seamless, in the sense of if they have a research group, and in graduate school, people always leave because they're graduating, or they leave and go someplace else. But how could they seamlessly take over the project? And so
Mhm.
you're just talking about, well, you need like a plan. Where are all the files? What exactly is it that you're using? What is it that you're actually doing? And how would I come in and do this? Would I have the steps in order to do that? And that's what we help create a plan for.
Yeah, Nikki said, such an important field. Yes. Okay. Wait, did I cut you off about how you first got in? How did you first even find me? I always like to ask that.
It's interesting. Some other information science doctoral students were talking to me about creating the space, and when creating a space or finding, cultivating space, if you don't see it, create it. And I was like, I'm not really going to create it. And then I started searching YouTube, and I saw one of you, not YouTube, Instagram. I saw one of your videos, and you were doing, it was a weekend where you were helping people with their plan for the doctoral program. And that's how I just joined, because I was like, well, I'm in the program, I'm not where they are,
Yeah.
but let me learn these steps along the way, so when I get there, I'll know what to do. And so that's and then it was also because being a doctoral student is a lonely, there are not many people that you meet that are doing it too, so it can feel like you're alone. But then when you get in the community, you're like, oh, y'all doing that too? Okay, cool. So it
Yes.
helps. And they
Yes.
have lives, they work full-time, or they're full-time students, they have family, they have responsibilities. So you meet your cousins and your siblings that are at schools going through all the things, so you don't feel like you don't have to explain. They already understand what you're talking about. And especially when you think about this melanin, I don't have to explain the struggles. It's like, we know. So it's that.
That's a good point. So a lot of people will say, like, I'm preparing, Dr. Lacy. I'm getting myself together. Like, I'm not at the dissertation phase, but when I do, I'm gonna get there. And you joined, um, as I understand, like as you're wrapping up coursework and preparing for your exams. What would you say to people who are like, but I'm not at the dissertation phase, so I don't think this group could help me?
I think you can join early, because it can be helpful. It's better to have all the tools available in the community, because that charges you, that rejuvenates you, that lets you know that other people are doing it. Because I always find it exciting when you have people in your comments that are either on Instagram or in the community that finished, because you're like, they do let us out. So I did, they finished their program. So you like, it's not just some theoretical thing out there. They're real names and faces. Like when I look at your website and you talk about the people that you help become doctor, I'm like, these people, these are real people, and you can go Google their name and they finished. So I can do it too. I can do it, so that's what we do.
Yes, because the heavy on the real people, y'all.
Real people.
People,
You gotta have real names attached to that, because
real names.
disinformation is a real thing out here in these internet streets.
So you recently, again, congratulations, you recently successfully passed your exams.
Mhm.
What was that experience like?
Oh my God, that experience it was kind of like you're trying to prepare for it, because I tried to be mindful about how you teach us about our nervous system. And so I had taken off work like that Thursday, Friday. I submitted the release for my questions on April 1st, but I made sure to clean my house, to cook ahead, because I knew that, when you don't know how to answer a question, it's time to vacuum, it's time to do laundry, because you know how to do those things. And so it was like, well, I gotta cook. And I was like, no, I prepared, I have, all these things. And so it was like, I sent the email for my questions at like 11 o'clock, and then my advisor released them. And then I'm looking at the questions, and I'm like, they're broad in the sense of the broad is the way that they hit all of the citations because we have to come up with a reading list of 30 questions. They give you 6 questions, you answer 4 within 72 hours. And then it was like, oh, okay, cool. The first one was more historical question. The other questions were like methodology, or how does this method inform your analysis in the field of race, digital studies, and intersectionality. And that first night was so hard because you realize you've read this stuff, but it's how you apply it, not what does this article say about this subject. And then you're trying to form arguments. And the first night I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I got like tiny pieces of paper everywhere. And then I also went back and looked at one of your conversations where you were saying, do you trust yourself to write the answers on the page in the amount of time? And I was like, really gonna have to trust, you have to trust yourself. And so I just started working from that little bit by little bit. And I got it turned in, and that was funny because it was exhausting because it took me about 4 hours to answer a question. And then you're doing that. And then I remember meeting with my committee for the exam and the oral exam. And the question they loved the most was the 4th question, which was about how does this method inform my analysis? And my advisors were like, oh, it's so beautiful. It's so wonderful. And I was thinking, that was the question my brain broke. Remember, it was 8:30 Wednesday night. And I was like, I got this last question. And my brain is, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna go take a bubble bath. I'm gonna eat
bubble bath,
and I'm gonna come back. And then I just wrote. I wrote part of it was part of what I had actually read. And then for the wrap up, I just closed my eyes and wrote. And I didn't even know that you're supposed to bring what you wrote in the in the test because they were like, we noticed you didn't bring that, but from here on out, bring what you write. But I had read it, but I was like, that's what y'all thought was most beautiful? All right, okay.
I read it. You're supposed to ask me questions. And
right. They're like, because they read it to me. I'm like, this is good. Chris is excellent. I don't know what Chris was on. I ain't know I said that. I ain't know. But
I was talking to someone else in the group who just passed their exams a few weeks ago too. And the same thing. She had 2 questions, but her second question was where she was like, I don't even know. I think I just blanked out. And that was the question they loved the most. So I say that to say, when you get out of your head, because you're like, I'm running out of time, I'm running out of energy, I'm just going to put anything on a page, it ends up being your strongest thing that you write because you're not overthinking. And that's why I love a shitty paragraph, because I'm just trying to teach everybody, get out of your head and put words on a page. You can always change them around and rework them, but there's nothing to rework if there's nothing on the page.
Right, because they can't talk about what's not there. So you have to give them something.
I have questions that got nothing to do with this exam. Okay, number 1, what did you cook?
Oh, I made smothered chicken with rice and peas, and then I made this chicken stir fry.
You know what? Don't worry about it. On my next trip up to home, because we're not going to take the planes together. I'm gonna just do it. Instead of going through Indiana, I'm gonna do it so I can make a stop when I can get your plate.
Okay, let me know.
I would need a plate. The other thing is, what do you put in your bath? Is that too intimate of a question? Because I always want to know what people put in their bubble baths.
I like that the bubble bath, Mr. Teal's, and then the different think it comes in a bag. I don't know what it is, but I like there you go. Yeah, they have different ones. So I like to do that. And then I like to play my jazz music and just relax. And then I do my meditations, like all the things I'm grateful for. And then I pray. And then, just mind my business. It's luxuriating because it's not like just to hurry up and clean it. No, we got to do a whole process. But I feel relaxed when I get out of the bathtub because I feel like, oh, okay, well, now I know what I'm going to navigate for the next moment. I know what I'm grateful for. I know what bothered me. Because sometimes it'll become, like you tell us to dump out our brain. Don't ever find my voice notes. don't listen.
That's me. That's me in the tub. I wonder, No, I started talking to myself. This is probably to be all the way transparent. Like I'm probably high by the point time I got into the tub. Okay,
Mhm,
so now you're talking about a dark room with
mhm,
music, and so I gotta have my candles, and I got like
mhm,
a bath tray. I
mhm.
got my laptop. I got my phone.
Now I'm bringing
Okay,
all that down, but way to
I
go.
know. This is the whole. I couldn't be there for hours, like because
Oh,
I
okay, 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 all right.
started talking, and then
Okay.
I'm look up, and I'm like, oh, I gotta put some more hot water in there. Like, no,
Oh,
for me, it's a camp situation. Like,
okay, I got
I
it.
got snacks. I got several drinks. I made a little bed or brought Sir's bed in there so he can,
Mhm. Okay,
because water is lava. Like, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
okay.
So I like to ask, but
That's what's up.
but we all are like, we need a plate. We're
Mhm.
gonna put you in charge because I want to have a like us all meet in October. So
Oh, okay.
we're gonna put you in charge of the food. That's what
Wait.
I'm saying.
That's funny.
Okay, so you are preparing to go into your proposal.
Mhm.
Tell me about your research, or if you know your topic, your topic.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I talked about one of the things I studied is I love the internet and the fact that it allows people to interact with each other, share, build community. And so I started doing this study exploring online comments about is America a racist country, looking at the Washington Post and looking at Breitbart. And I have about like 80 comments. And I'm trying to turn that into a paper now, but I've
Mhm.
been trying to really decide, am I going to stay with that theme in a proposal? And I'm not really sure because ultimately what I want to do is build a visual map of how individuals understand race. And I don't know if I'm just going to do the platform or as far as like a platform or if I'm going to look at, history and archives. So I'm really trying to figure out how to break it on down because they have you go so wide and it's
Yeah,
like race is a dissertation by itself. Digital studies is a dissertation by itself. Intersectionality is by itself. So it's like, well, how do you do a finite thing? And then I'm also like, I just want to do a basic, boring dissertation. So it's cool. So I'm trying to, it doesn't have to set the world on fire. It's just, how people, I said, I still keep coming back to how people understand race. So I've been looking in archives. So we'll see where we go. Because I realize I'm really good with
okay.
the historical part of the history of race and how that comes in present day. So thinking about ways to turn a dissertation into that.
Okay, so I don't know for everybody who's watching, I do this thing where I pretend to be ridiculous committee member. She needs a name. I need a name. You can help me give her name because she's a whole character. And her job is to say the quiet part out loud. But
Uh-oh.
when she says the quiet part out loud, it helps the person get clear. So,
Mhm.
me being ridiculous committee
Okay.
member, why should we even care about race? Like, like the only people who really have race are people who are not white. And do we really care about them? We don't. So, what are you trying to do? What's the point? What's the point here? Why should we care?
I think race is important because it's an identifiable marker that's in everything that we do. We love to say that it's not about race, but you can't name a job application, you can't name an experience, you can't name anything that does not include you having to identify what race you are. And then we have to go deeper than thinking about how we identify ourselves, but what does that mean? What does that mean in terms of our culture, in terms of our language? How does that manifest itself in our policies? And how the reality is those things affect people differently based on their lived experience, based on their identities. So it's important to have those conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we gotta check boxes, huh? But I mean, what's like how how would life be different if we understood it was how people define it, right? Like, or
Right.
yeah, what is going to be changed?
Well, I think one of the challenges in or limitations in looking at the change is when you think about how there's a conversation on the internet and in the world that the civil rights movement was a failure. The reality is the focus of the civil rights movement was to end legislative segregation. Yet when we look at it in the present day, it's been mostly expanded because now we wonder, is it racist if a person can create an ad on Facebook Marketplace and say they only want to study, or they only want white people to buy this house based on the data that shows them white people have money in this area. So thinking about how we would discuss that in terms of the way race affects policy and how people have different lived experiences, it will be an important tool to use.
Okay.
Not the deep look. You better go deep.
What I mean, right? Like, well, before let me put a pause on ridiculous and let me get more information. When you are thinking about the end product here, in a world where it'll be simple to do, you'll have all the resources, including time and money and whatnot. What is your dream about the end product? What does that look like?
The end product of finishing the program, or the end product of dissertation?
This dissertation.
I'd really like to be able to create something that people can see. Like, I'd like to create a map, or create a broadcast that gives you the mixtapes or the highlights. That would be something that people could hear, because everybody doesn't read a paper. Like, when you were talking in the beginning about, the master's tools and the master's house, I'm like, everybody isn't necessarily in the academic institution. So why not create something that if you're not, you can look at it here, you can hear it here, you can see it here. I think that would be really cool.
Who do you want to be featured on this map? And let me say a side note, absolutely hype up Chris, because it is not easy to do this. Chris is used to me, okay? Because when you're in the group, I'm just like, I got questions. We gotta talk about it. So whose understanding or definitions of race do you want to learn more about or highlight?
I think you'd have to use people's lived experiences, because I think we have amazing stories to tell, and the experiences that we've had, and it's always important to share that. I think that's one of the things that I feel about myself. I'm completely open to using every single part of my life as a teaching tool, and if I find others that are willing to do the same, it's great, because in many ways I feel like that was one of the not just the sole reason why I got into this field, but when I think about the greatest classes that I took in the doc program, they were about teachers that broke down ideas, and they showed scholars how all the scholars had these different thoughts, or the professors that in sociology that brought the author to the class. So it's like they told you how they wrote this book, or they told you their process, and then when they look like you, it's even better, because you realize you're not by yourself. People finish. People have different careers. Some of them became, researchers or faculty at institutions. Some open their own business. Some they just, work in industry. Some speak. So you don't have to do it one way. So it's always interesting and fascinating to meet other people who do it in a multitude of ways, because some people they're not necessarily for the academy, not to stay there.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And we don't talk about that enough, that it's okay if you're not trying to be professor such and such at an institution. And it's okay if that's what you want. There's space and room for everybody. Do what works for you.
Yeah. Is there a particular group of people, or is there even other people involved as you're brainstorming your topic? Like,
I think for me, I really like to talk to Black trans men.
Okay.
It's a voice that you don't necessarily hear a lot about. It's a voice that I feel I embody, being that I spent about 20 years as a masculine-centered lesbian, only to really realize probably about 2 years later that I'm more trans. But shout out to, and the reality is, yes, it's true. I was, born biologically female, but I don't necessarily connect to it. But yet I still respect that. My given name is Christy. I have no problem. I don't feel dead named by Christy. It's a part of who I am, but it doesn't represent who I am now. There are publications that say Christy. It's totally cool. My mother calls me that, but people who know me for real, they only call me Chris. So it's all good. But I also realize with my mom, that's a bit different. It's complicated. And I don't care if you throw out the alphabet of being LGBTQ, people have complicated relationships with their mama. So that's not this show. That's not this show, okay? That's not.
Because this is where you're like, you know what? All right, girl. Okay. me being somebody gave me a name. Several days. Listen, okay, me being ridiculous again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot to already keep up with the alphabet, and now you want me to add in race? Like what? Well, why? Like, why race? Like, what is that gonna do for Black trans men? Like, what is this? How is it gonna help? How's it gonna help?
I believe it helps because it's back. It always goes back to how people move and navigate life, and how identities and expressions show up in their everyday experiences. People's connection, proximity to power, to privilege, it changes over time based on your identity. So showing how that shows up for other people, and not in a way to bash anyone. It's some, but in truth, some things do need to be bashed because there are a lot of problematic ideologies that we need to actually name it and say this is a problem and this is why it's a problem. But there are also other things that you can say that this highlights a strength or this highlights resilience, yet also be willing to stop making situations and experiences so hard so people don't have to be resilient. Because I think like the only reason or one of the best reasons about being faculty or being in power is to remove barriers for others. Because if we're not doing that, why are we in power? Just my thoughts. Do what you want.
Okay. So this turned into a coaching call, y'all, but we're doing it. And I want to say shout out, Chris. Okay, you tell me, I'm gonna repeat this back to you. You tell me if this is how you're thinking about it.
Okay.
Clear about what I was doing. I was trying to get to a topic as a starting point for you then to work through that. So if race is everywhere, do anything or join anything without having to identify clearly our race. To me, then the question becomes what happens when your gender erases your race from society's point of view?
Okay.
Right? How can a person truly come to understand who they are, how they want to define themselves, and how they want to present themselves to the world if there's no space for them to fully process all of their identities and the ways that they connect to their personal meaning as well as how the world views that connection? For example, when you talk about Black trans men, where is the space, period, in general, to just talk about what does it mean to become, like as an identity? What does it mean to navigate like these multiple contexts? Like, where do you process that?
Right.
I mean, oh, go ahead.
No, I think there are multiple places to process that. I think you can process that within yourself. I think there are definitely resources out there in community that can help you do that. I've definitely seen a lot of different community groups that are specifically designed and on the internet for Black trans men. I can think of, even if you're a doctoral student, one of the other communities that I'm a part of is the Wellness Center. I can't remember the professor that oversees it, but that's a great community for queer and non-binary and trans individuals. Most of them are the psychology doctoral students and me, the information scientist. But that within that space, you have the ability to talk about your lived experiences. There's also this other group that's called TTMOC. So there are spaces out there that allow people to be seen and to talk. But I think for me, when I'm thinking about in terms of information practice, in terms of scholarship, you don't always hear about those stories.
Yeah.
So how do you tell those stories too? Because like if I said, there's certain books that I read that talked about Black gay men, that talked about Black lesbians, that there were not journals, but magazines, that discuss that. Oftentimes I'm saying, while it's true that those are valuable and resourceful, it's also true to have these other spaces too, so that people can see themselves and tell their stories too.
Yeah.
It's very simple to see yourself.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. Yeah, that's where I'm going. Okay. So how I was framing that is because I want you to hear how I'm framing it, because you need to frame it like that for your committee to hear.
Okay.
Right. Like, I'm with you. Like, that was perfect. So you go back and watch this recording. It's perfect. Like, I set you up and then you were like, yeah, we have these spaces in the formalized education system, or even reflected through formal like research literature information we have access to. Where,
Right.
girl? Where is it?
Right. You
That's
know,
what you're saying, right?
right.
So force, like I gotta go create counter spaces because
Mhm.
right, this is not. So then, therefore, the purpose
Mhm.
of this study is to explore how. I don't, right, you can go into like you could say in general explore experience. You could say how Black trans men make meaning of race. You could talk like that, right? But me funneling that way is your
Mhm.
introduction, and then
Okay.
that will get us to your purpose, which then what Nikki was saying gets us to a very it was getting to a delicious research question. I'm doing that because I was gonna say this is my show. I don't know your committee, okay, but I know oppressive systems.
Right. Right.
And I know a nice field like, information sciences. What does this have to do with it?
Right.
They may not frame it in this way because they may get too distracted.
Right, 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 right.
Right.
The good thing about the new committee, because I had to get a new committee. And it's funny because the third committee member, I met with her last week to talk about this fellowship that I was thinking about applying for. And she was saying, "Oh, I loved your committee," or I could definitely tell that the energy, because she was on the original one. She said the energy changed and it's just two people, but she was like, they seem to care about you. And I was like, good, because it feels that way. It's felt that way since the first time we had the meeting, that they
Yeah.
care about me as the person. And they're okay. So that part I feel seen, I feel understood. I just haven't like figured out. I'm still in the process. We meet tomorrow to talk about like my summer plan. And it's helpful, but that in itself is a navigation of finding who will support you, because you don't know what you're gonna need until you're in it. And then there's some people who they're just not good at it. They're not. And they're not really concerned about care. They're just not.
No. And I think you also learn about in general, I was just having this conversation before this with Daniela, like sometimes your committee's personal politics and ideologies get in the way of being able to fully support you. And
Right.
they don't even realize that that's what's happening. They think they're teaching you the right way to do a thing when no, those are your views getting in the way of you helping me
Right.
navigate my research process and me
Mhm.
figuring out how I want to approach this. What we just went through, I would say use that as and again, you should be able to watch this right after this, but like use
Okay.
that as a baseline because that's just the core problem statement. So right in research, we start
Mhm.
with, and if you in my world, we always start with the problem. I know
Right.
everybody's nerves because they're like, why does everything start with the problem? Because if you don't have a strong problem, what we doing? It don't matter. I know y'all like to jump to the sexy part and the methods.
Mhm.
Well, if we don't even know why we're doing this, why are we talking about methods? Okay. So you have a very clear problem, and the problem in the way that the whitewash Western way of research wants you to talk about the problem. This group of people exist.
Mhm.
They've been having this experience. This experience is not reflected in the literature, and therefore we're not adequately addressing the needs of this group. And I'm making this general for everybody on this call. We're not addressing the needs for this group. I'm
Mhm.
going to attempt to address the needs of this group with this study by doing XYZ.
Okay.
If you can't map out that logic, your committee is going to have a hard time understanding what your topic is about. And you can go and talk about all the different things and all the things you read, but if you can't do this line of logic, they can't hear you.
Okay.
There's a group of people experiencing a problem in a particular environment.
Mhm.
We have tried to do XYZ things to assist them with the problem, but those things are not effective because of you fill in the blank.
Mhm.
Further, the literature is not an adequate source to figure out what to do next because we have some gaps.
Right.
We're going to address said gaps by doing XYZ. Right?
Cool.
You're going to go directly to the people and talk to them.
Mhm.
Then the next question becomes, how do you want to talk to them? and what would happen as a result of talking to them that way. The best way to do that is to figure out, okay, what theoretical lens am I seeing this through? So
Mhm.
you mentioned intersectionality earlier, so I'm just going to go with that. So let's say we were looking at this from an intersectional point of view. How
Okay.
I understand intersectionality is right, like we all got things, we all got identities. Some of them are more important to us personally than others.
Right.
Have our internal understanding of our identities, but the world has an understanding of our identities, and depending on how those different identities connect,
Mhm.
means I have access to a certain level of privilege and power.
Mhm.
Right? Which somebody could share the same core identities as me, but because of their additional context, they may have a different level of access to privilege and power.
Mhm.
Right? So if you're seeing the research through that lens, what methodology helps you through a lens of intersectionality talk to Black trans men and understand how they define racism? That's the question when it comes to a methodology. I'm not asking you to have this on the top of your head. I'm just
Right.
talking to help you later.
Right. I have been noticing people you seem to use mixed methods. But I don't know what that means. I just read it and I go, what that mean when you say it? So don't. But in interviews, focus groups, I'm good with that. But I'm like, I feel like they might, and document analysis. Can we just do those three? And can I finish in 12 months or less?
No, because that's not what you said you wanted to do for real. But I'm glad you're saying this. No, this is really helpful because I'm serious. This is helpful. Okay. So methodology is the theory about
Okay.
how to collect.
Okay. That's how to collect it.
And then
Okay.
methods is about the individual ways you collect. So the individuals could be like an interview or focus group,
Okay.
document analysis. A methodology would be more of ethnography or narrative inquiry or case study. Let me,
Okay.
let me name this for you though. Depending, this is everybody who's watching this, depending on the program you come from and the culture of the program, they may have no idea about methodologies.
Okay.
Because when you do a quant or a mixed methods, it's not about the methodology as much as it's about the individual methods you're using.
Okay.
I know it's confusing, y'all. Go with me. Right? Research design is
Mhm.
qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods. It's more in general about how you approaching. Do you need numbers? Do you
Okay.
need words? Do you need a mix of both?
Mhm.
I'm gonna be snarky and say if you're doing mixed methods, you're just a quantitative researcher who's too afraid to say you really want to do qualitative research, and so you're doing both. And that's shade on purpose for some of that because that hurts somebody's feelings back there. But my point is, that's what I find when most people are telling me they're doing mixed methods. I'm like, oh, you really wanted to do qual, but your program wouldn't let you. I get it.
Mhm.
Because rarely do I find somebody who truly wants to do mixed methods, but that's another conversation for another day. Okay,
Okay.
so for you,
Okay.
and I want to go through that part. Okay, so
Stopping with your toe. You came through with the Air Force Force. It's okay. Get me together. I appreciate it.
yeah, somebody's gonna send me some message. I know. I'm doing mixed methods because I want to. The reason why I was shaking my head no for you is because of what you just told me. You told me earlier about what the end product you're
Oh,
envisioning.
right, right. The visual map. Yeah.
Um, and you want to do a nice basic board. When do you want to be completely done by?
I'd like to be done by December 25
Okay.
because I get to go on sabbatical
Yeah.
January and it's 9 months. So couldn't I come back and present and be finished? I mean,
Ooh. Why not be done by May 2025? I'm just throwing it out there. I'm curious.
I feel like this other student when they go. The level of fear that's in my chest right now. It's real high now. It's real high. I'm like, wait a minute. What are we
Okay,
doing?
let me explain. Let me explain. You ready? Here's how this
Okay.
happens. Okay.
Okay.
You can do something real nice and cute like narrative inquiry. Because
Okay.
narrative inquiry says, I want to understand people's stories from their words, with their words, from their mouth.
Mhm.
I want to know how they experienced the thing, and I'm going to talk about their story.
Right.
Okay. So you just like, I'm gonna do a narrative inquiry, keep it cute. If your program is real traditional, then we're gonna say phenomenology. We're gonna call it a day. We're not gonna argue with nobody, okay? But
Okay.
if they don't say anything, narrative inquiry.
Okay.
We do some cute interviews, okay? We're gonna
Okay.
do interviews. Unless there's a rule that you have to do more than one method, we're gonna do interviews.
Okay.
You're gonna find about 10 to 15 people to talk to, which you probably can do right now by picking up your phone.
Right. True.
Okay? We're gonna find 10 to 15 people, and we're gonna do this. And about August, September, you're gonna say, "Hey, friends, hey y'all, hey." So I'm becoming a doctor, and right now I'm working on the beginning part. But I'm gonna tell you to pull up over the holiday break, okay? You're gonna pull up. We're gonna pull up together, and I want you to consider you scheduling these interviews in a way that you can knock them out in a week, a weekend, but you can just back to back.
Okay.
Because in my mind, you are going to work on this proposal. You could definitely have it ready to go by August because we've done the challenge in the group. So have it ready, like have it solid enough so that August and September is you going back and forth doing edits with your chair, and then defending it before Halloween. But if we must, Thanksgiving, but like Halloweenish.
Okay.
Give it to IRB. Nobody should say anything. You're not poking nobody with nothing. You're not doing no experiments. You're not asking really no hard questions. You're like, how you define race? That's it. IRB might just be like, provide them with a little bit of resources. Sounds good. Hopefully they go fast. Your chair be like, what y'all doing? Give me the approval. Sounds good. You have that before going on winter break.
Mm-hmm.
And then you already told the people in August, September. Remember when I told you to pull up? You ready to pull up? Let's do this. So you can either collect that over the holiday break. I'm just thinking people are traveling; they may have more time. But if months, you could do that in January.
Mm-hmm.
But the beauty about spring is now you don't have to worry about work. So you can go ahead and run that, clean up the data, analyze the data, and write up those final chapters and be prepared to defend before the middle of April. And then you graduate. What does your brain say when I say that?
It's a big old country scream.
That's fair. You're thinking about it. That means you're thinking about it, though.
I'm like one question, because I'm like, being this person that's done interviews before, just one I think it was 15 to 20 questions. I'm like, just that you have so much data that comes from just that. So one in 15 interviews, there's a lot of ways you could take that. Because I'm thinking of like longer term of how people, do other things with a dissertation over time. But
yeah,
just trying to get out.
So, is that showing? Okay. So Nikki is asking, do you know if are you writing a traditional 5-chapter dissertation? Is it a 3 manuscript dissertation? What does that look like?
Based on the proposals that I've seen, it seems the most recent ones, they do like six chapters, 7 maybe, but 6, strong 6.
Okay. And do you know if those chapters are individual manuscripts so some programs, they'll do like each chapter is a manuscript because they expect that you just go ahead and submit that for publication, or you have full 6 or 7 chapters and they all have a different purpose.
Not sure.
Okay, so that's something to ask for tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm explaining this as if you are as if you're doing a traditional dissertation, even with the 6 or 7 chapters. Usually the other chapters is about, it could be methodology, it could be talk about your framework, it could be like talk about the map you created. There's a lot of reasons or ways people organize it, but I would just ask your chair tomorrow for if there's a program guidelines about dissertation, if she has personal guidelines for dissertation, and what is she thinking in terms of format of the dissertation.
Okay. What does she think? Okay.
But the timeline, like the interviews, for most people, your interview guide should be around 8 to 10 questions. Even that's a little bit longer because most people are doing 60-minute interviews. And realistically, people are probably only going to get through about 3 or 5 questions before you're like, okay, time is up.
Right.
You
Right.
don't realize, right, how long we speak. Even now, right, I only got through my first 2 questions of my 5 questions I gave you.
Mm,
Right, and we even talked because I went somewhere else, right?
right.
But this
Right.
is an example of a semi-structured interview. So
Mhm.
interviews can be structured, y'all. They can be semi-structured, or they can be completely unstructured.
Mhm.
Structured means I got these 10 questions, and I'm gonna ask each person these 10 questions in the same order with the same affect, if possible. Semi-structured is like I got these 10 questions, and I might get to 2 or 3 depending on
Mhm.
how the person answers because they may have answered the other questions.
Right.
It allows me for clarifying questions, but I don't have to go in order and I don't have to make sure I answer or I ask each of the 10 questions.
Okay.
Unstructured is like, you know what, you got something to drink, I got something to drink, we got time, let's just talk.
Okay. Right. Right. Let's just talk.
So it
That
just
could work.
depends on where you're going. But I do think you could graduate in May.
Okay.
I want to plant that seed. I'm not
All
saying
right.
I'm going in tomorrow being like, I'm graduating in May. I'm just planting the seed for
Planting
you.
the seed. Right. 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 I appreciate that. Yeah.
Because, I want you to create a whole separate thing about teaching people how you did this project and just showing, like, displaying the information, how you want this to be more like engaging. This is your community opportunity.
Right. Right. Is that. And then playing to your strengths. And I'm like, for me, talking to people, I don't have a problem with that. So
Yeah.
go with that. Go with what you're good at. You don't have
This
to
is
reinvent
recording, y'all. So remember, remember you said you don't have no problem talking to people. Are you ready to start your community? You ready? Remember, you said that.
I don't know if I'm ready to start. Wait. I just
Yeah.
said being a part of the community. It's-
No, I want to encourage you to build your own community.
okay.
What would that be like?
Uh-uh.
Okay, so I went on Instagram because I wanted to see what people were saying. Hey, Instagram people. Um, okay. Set due dates for each part. Absolutely. Narrative inquiry all day. Okay, the people that we are in
No agreement. All right. Narrative
agreement.
agreement.
Okay. Is there anything that we definitely should have talked about that I just took us somewhere else and we didn't talk about?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you said at the beginning, I said why what I got out of qual scholars.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What is the thing you're looking forward to most this summer?
Relaxation.
Are you not gonna
You-
be outside? You're not gonna be outside?
I'm trying to be outside. I'm trying to be at Jazz Fest.
Is that what I was like? Yeah.
That's the only
Jazz
else.
fest with my
Jazz
chair
Fest.
and my
Jazz.
box of wine and my snacks.
Right. They said you can bring your own food to Newport. So I'm gonna go on over there and mind my business. That's what I'm gonna do.
I love you. Like, no, I'm not gonna be outside. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'll be outside. It's not girl summer. I don't know. That's me. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Okay.
I'm like, Atlanta, I'm for real. I keep saying I'm gonna go outside. I didn't go outside last
You didn't
summer.
go?
But
Okay, you'll go this year. Okay.
you know, I, I tried to get back on the dating sites.
Okay.
So I think I need to go outside. That's what I think I need to do. I think
Get it.
I need to go places where the people are or something. I
Right.
don't really know. Because it is Atlanta, okay? So I'm a little nervous.
It's a big area.
Maybe I need to go home and go outside.
Oh, Chicago. Okay.
But that's a little sketchy too. 'Cause it's hard out here in these streets, okay? It's hard. And so if you have advice, you let me know. But it's hard out in these
All
streets.
right. Okay.
Kalia and I would like advice,
Yeah.
okay? It's hard. Okay. I turned on the apps, I said, oh no. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Yeah, because I don't feel like I'm being ridiculous, but when somebody says, I swear, the other day my friend was like, download it. So I downloaded. The first profile says, if you have pronouns in your profile, go ahead and swipe left. Left, left, what's next? If you don't have confidence, you didn't heal through your trauma, left, Why is that why is that your first thing that you're saying in your profile bio? Who are you? Give a little joke. What's your favorite food?
What's your favorite food?
But that's what we're dealing with. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Not that you need to hear about my daily life, but thank you for coming on here and sharing. How can people follow up with you if they have questions or they just want to give you some encouragement?
Hey, Chris Wiley34 at gmail.com. That's who I am on Instagram, and that's my email. So I'll be there. If you also ever want to check out the Wiley Report, that's me talking about information science, talking about being a librarian. If you need affirming in scripture, song lyrics that encourage and educate and empower you, you should check out Encouraging Your Spirit. That's about 200 podcast episodes on Buzzsprout and wherever podcast is. So that's prayer and the support, and I sing songs and that kind of stuff. If you want just sarcasm, wit, and intellect, you go over to the Wiley Report.
Wait a minute. See, I was trying to wrap this up, and then did I know this before? I don't think I knew this before.
Oh, my man.
Come on, Kalia. Was it me? Because I was like, wait, am I missing something? You just
Oh yeah, the Encouraging Your Spirit, I started at first because a version of me used to be active in church ministry. So I got ordained as a deacon and I used to teach classes and stuff. And so I thought it would be great if you had a space, because being LGBTQ plus, oftentimes that in specific mainstream church media or church spaces, you're not necessarily accepted. It can be a problematic. And I was like, well, it would be great if you created a community, or at least you created a space where you could just encourage people. You turn your phone on and you talk about your life, you talk about scriptures, you interview people. So I did that for a couple of years. And then when school got heavy, I wasn't able to do that anymore. And then I was also doing information science. So I was like, well, I don't really talk about my library life or what is to be a doctoral student or coffee and conversations about topics. So I created the Wiley Report. So those are just two things
that you regularly update.
The Encourage Your Spirit, it's been a minute. But Wiley Report, their videos, and it's on YouTube. You can go see it. You might, if you go to the Wiley Report, you'll hear me talking about your self-sabotage workshop.
What you doing? What you doing after you graduate? You staying at your job? What you doing?
I haven't planned what I'm gonna do.
It sounds like the ancestors told you what you were gonna do, and it don't sound like you listening.
You said what? Do what? That's do what?
It sounds like the ancestors told you what to do, and you're not listening.
I want to do TV. I mean, I want the Wiley Report, but seriously, I want the Wiley Report to be an actual show where you have information science talking about how these topics affect everyday life. That would be really cool, I think, because I like that. But I don't know the how of that manifests itself. I still want to teach people. I still want to do research. So the how is where I'm like, how do you make that a reality? Is where I'm at.
You already made it a reality.
Well, I mean, make it more, because I mean, I don't have a lot of subscribers. I mean, I've done these episodes with my subscription on YouTube. There's not a lot of followers, and that's not a criticism. That's not. Now, there are people who listen to the podcast, because I'm amazed at, the number of downloads, but that's over time. So I'm like, how do you create that so that, because for me, it's not just about the following. It's that I just really want to help people. So I want to be useful and effective. That's it. So how you do that in a way that's meaningful, that you can actually see that you're helping people is where I'm at. Like, because I want to see it.
I just feel like it's moments like this. Sometimes I question, like, is there the spirit world? Am I making this up? And then no, moments like this happen because this couldn't have went even more. Like, this is so perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know I have a Simple Business Institute? Do you know that?
Yes.
Okay. So
I haven't signed up for the bit. I do, because I've gone,
It's
but I
not
don't have
about
no
up.
plan. I don't have
You
no-
didn't say nothing. It's why
Okay.
I'm mad. I'm like, you ain't say nothing. You just been over here with a whole 2 shows. You got 2 of them.
Yeah, sorry. So I have a product because I've listened. I'm like, they got products, and I'm like, I don't have nothing to really. It's just me talking. That's
So don't let capitalism get in your
okay.
way.
Okay.
Right. There's a difference. Okay, this is not today's conversation. There's a difference between commerce and capitalism in my brain.
Okay.
What I'm asking you to do is
Mhm.
to build a community, and the
Okay.
community will tell you what they want as a product from you.
Okay.
The community wants to spend time with you because you're knowledgeable, you're accepting, you're approachable, you're kind, you have a story that they can relate to. In
Mhm.
today's world, we are lonelier than ever. I think that's where I was trying to go. We are more disconnected and isolated than ever.
Mhm.
We have few spaces where we can go and just be. But
Mhm.
even those spaces, because they're not most of the time being led by people who understand how to bring groups of people together and how to structure it in a way
Mhm.
that everyone can have a part in it,
Okay.
you have those skills.
Okay.
So my brain is like, it's our duty to create these spaces.
Okay.
And because we create the space, the community will want to support it.
Okay.
They will want to support you.
Okay.
People tell me, listen, there's people who come to me every day. Can you create XYZ? I don't have to prompt them. I
Mhm.
don't ever feel like I'm like selling people. I feel like
Okay.
I get to do what I've always wanted to do is to just show up and educate. And then people come to me and it's like, okay, but I have this question or I need help with this. And then I'm like, oh, I'll go create that for you. And then
Mhm.
like, oh, but I want to pay you. Oh, okay, here you go.
Mhm.
And so you see like how I'm not most of the things that I'm creating, I've had coaches yell at me like, there's not enough money. I'm like, I'm doing this for the people.
Right.
I do know there's a reality where people do, especially depending on the thing, like they have to pay to be invested because it's just how we've been socialized in the system.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that you have to exploit people and
Right.
take them for every ounce or cent that they have.
True.
But I'm saying to you that I'm willing, I don't even gamble, but if I did, I'm willing to bet that there are people who have been waiting for you to create your own space.
Okay.
And they're like, so you're going to do it? We just want the moment. And so I
Okay.
just, again, another seed for you for us to revisit for your sabbatical. Now that I have this, because you're going to get so sick of me now. For your sabbatical, I just want you to try out once a week, an hour a week, 2 hours a week. I'm just going to invite people to be in community with me. Maybe you do like I'm doing right now. You record a live episode of one of the shows, or you just show up and talk freely.
Okay.
My hope is that you get into the habit of that, and then eventually you're like, I'm gonna charge like $5 or $10. And that's
Okay.
more for you and your nervous system to see that people want to support you,
Okay.
right? It's the same thing in terms of we expect that when we go into other communities and spaces, especially in a religious context, like, yeah,
Mhm.
we're gonna support because got the building fund, the anniversary fund, the
Yeah.
bus fund,
Yeah.
I just want a new house fund. Like we're used to. So we're used to have it. My
Yeah.
point is people won't look at it as, oh, you have to have this perfect product that I could pay thousands of dollars for. No,
Right.
people want to be seen, they want to be heard.
Right. And
You
understood.
do
Yeah.
that amazing,
Mhm.
well. And so it could be as like, that's how Patreon became a thing. It's like
Okay.
you pay $5 and we're a community. It could be that you have a Patreon. It could be that you have a Substack. The options are limitless. I just want to plant the seed for you
Okay.
of what if you started this now and you use this year to like build it up.
Okay.
My thought is, when you graduate and when you're ready to be like, F all of this, you're like, I got something to go into.
Right.
Or I go to work because I choose to, and I don't really need to be here with y'all. I
Right.
got a whole thing over here. So
Right.
want to plant the seeds.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, Khalil? Like you gotta pay us all these funds for what? Just to do this. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna let you go because I know I said it was gonna be 30 minutes and we've been
It's
talking.
all good.
Hey, thank you, Danielle. Like this has been full circle because I was just telling Danielle how nervous I was and like what I really want people to do is this, and this couldn't have ended any better. So thank you so much for sharing your
Thank
wisdom.
you.
We have to have you back when you get to the other side of the dissertation.
That's right.
Yes.
Can't
Yes.
wait.
I'll be sure to put the information down below. But I hope everybody has a good night. And please watch out for this full moon because it's a doozy.